So I'm Patrick Kelly. I am a distinguished architect here at Zoom. I've been here at Zoom for, can you believe, almost over 5.5 years now. And prior to working for Zoom, I worked for a small software company you might have heard of called Microsoft for 13 years. So I help lead our Zoom and Microsoft narrative and our roadmap and our strategies. And I talk to most of our enterprise customers about this topic. How do we fit into a Microsoft ecosystem? And that's really the goal of what we're trying to get today is coexist and integrate inside of that powerful Microsoft ecosystem. And that's really the big part of it. What we're trying to talk about today is where do we sit inside of that platform? Is that Microsoft is the biggest ecosystem in the world today, right? They are the biggest IT provider of applications to enterprises today. There's three ecosystems in the world today. There's Apple. Apple is a consumer-driven model. That is the driver of iPads and iPhones, and really they have obviously MacBooks. They have servers now. They have their own email system with Mail. They have their own productivity system with things like Keynote. They actually have their own communication system with FaceTime and Messenger. But that's not an enterprise level. But by the way, Zoom completely exists inside of that Apple ecosystem. The next level that we typically see at small markets, maybe mid markets, rarely do we see it at an enterprise level, but it does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't, is the Google ecosystem, right? Google has their own email system, right? They have their own Gmail, they have their own calendar, they have their own productivity suite of products with Google Slides and Google Docs, right? They have their own file repository with G Drive, but they don't really make their own hardware. We're not really counting Chromebooks as an enterprise level hardware. They don't have their own CRM, right? They don't have their own contact center. They don't have a lot of the things that enterprises need at that ecosystem, that true ecosystem. In order to do that in Google, you would have to add a lot of third-party initiatives to make that stack complete. Certainly, Google has its own communication system with Google Meet, and they have their own rooms and they have their own chat. But when we get into an enterprise level, we need a lot more, right? We need that CRM. We need a Salesforce. We need a Dynamics 365. We need contact centers. We need our own file repository solution. If you're at enterprise level, you're probably using OneDrive or SharePoint if you're a Microsoft customer. You need your own email system with Microsoft Exchange and calendaring system. You need your own productivity suite with Microsoft Office 365, right? And PowerPoint and Word and Excel. You need your own security system for DLP and e-discovery. What I'm saying is a lot of the stuff that Microsoft does, Zoom doesn't do. Zoom is a productivity, communication, and collaboration solution. It's not a complete IT stack. We don't have our own OS. We don't have our own hardware, right? We need to fit into one of those three ecosystems, either the Apple, the Google, or the Microsoft. And this is typically focused, this whole webinar is focused on how we fit into that ecosystem. We talk about communication and collaboration. That's really what Zoom does as a platform. And certainly Microsoft has their own solution with Teams. But really, we want to talk about that coexistence inside of the complete IT stack. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to demo as much as we can. The most important thing we're trying to do here on the product team at Zoom is make this effortlessly, seamlessly integration happen to make Microsoft users more powerful with Microsoft and Zoom together. And we're going to walk through a few of those examples today. If you haven't been on Zoom's website recently or been in a Zoom meeting, you probably haven't seen this infographic. This is our infographic of all the stuff that Zoom makes. And really what we're going to see is on the left side is all the Zoom workplace entities, all the things that users can do inside of the Zoom client. You know Zoom for meetings, you might know Zoom for phone, you might know Zoom for digital signage and rooms and spaces and workspace reservations and notes and docs and AI. We do all that stuff in the Zoom client. That's all the stuff on the left side. On the right side is all business services stuff, right? So webinars, events like we're doing here, marketing campaigns, Zoom Revenue Accelerator for sales, contact center, engagement centers, virtual AI. Those are all business services things, right? So those are serving your business needs. We're not talking about the left or the right side today. We're going to actually stay in the bottom part, this developer ecosystem. How does our Zoom platform integrate into spaces beyond what Zoom does, right? Certainly, we're known for meetings and rooms and phones and all those things that known for Zoom. But we also have to integrate with those third-party platforms, things that we don't do. We are not a CRM company. We need to integrate with Salesforce and Dynamics and HubSpot and Outreach. We are not a productivity company. So we need to, a traditional productivity company, we need to integrate with things like Google Docs and Google Slides and Word and Excel. We need to be able to seamlessly bring those workflows into the Zoom client. So we're going to showcase a few of the ways that we can do that using the Zoom client today, bringing third-party apps inside of the Zoom client, but it goes the other way. We actually know open API, open SDK systems. So we can not only bring third-party systems into the Zoom client, but we can push Zoom into third-party systems like Google, like Microsoft, and we're going to stay in that Microsoft ecosystem today. So here's what happens when enterprises come to a fork in the road, right? There's two paths of integration from a platform perspective. On the left side is everything from a communication, collaboration, and AI perspective staying inside the Zoom client. And what that creates is application affinity. Why that's good is it creates this application affinity because it lessens what we call context switching. Imagine during the day, you needed to switch apps to do different things. You do that every day today, right? If you want to start a Word document, you have to go to Word, or a PowerPoint document. If you want to go to a web browser, you have to go to Chrome or maybe Mozilla or whatever you're using for your Chrome browser. If you want to go to CRM, you have to go to Salesforce. Every time you switch applications, you're losing efficiency. And the goal is, what if we can stay in one application longer and do all of our workflow stuff inside of one application, i.e. Zoom? So I can do my meetings, my phone, my CRM integrations inside of Zoom Docs. I can do Zoom Notes. I can do Zoom Tasks, staying in one client longer for allowing your users to be more productive. But I talked about earlier, there's a lot of things that we don't do that Microsoft does, right? We certainly have our own email system, but as an enterprise, you're probably already using Exchange for your email solution. You're using Exchange for your calendar solution. What if we can bring that inside the Zoom client? So if you can stay in the Zoom client and not have to go to Outlook or go to your calendar, what if you can do all that inside of Zoom? What about documents like Word and Excel and PowerPoint? What if we can create and share those documents directly from the Zoom client? We're going to demo that today as well. But that's one solution. That's certainly the preferred solution from a Zoom bias perspective. But we also know and acknowledge that there's another solution as well. What if you are an enterprise and you've already chosen maybe Microsoft Teams as your collaboration communication perspective for maybe chat, maybe internal meetings, but you want to bring in the power of a higher level of meetings or a higher level of webinars or a higher level of phone functionality or higher quality or higher resiliency? What if you wanted to bring the power of what we call these four main modalities of Zoom inside of Microsoft Teams? So those four strong modalities we're talking about are phone, Zoom meetings, Zoom rooms, as well as WorkVivo or employee engagement. Does Microsoft have a solution for all these things? Yes. Is it as good as Zoom's? No. That's the whole point, is how can we bring in those strong modalities inside of Microsoft Teams, allowing users to pick which client works best for their workflow? That's what happens in the IT industry today. We are not this draconian society anymore where IT departments are pushing applications down on users saying, this is the one application you get, use it whether you like it or not, use it whether it works for your workflow or not, this is what you get. Users are demanding more and want more. They want a more refined solution, a more powerful solution that works for their workflows, because every workflow is different. Right? Users that are in sales work differently than users that are in HR, that work differently than users that are in legal or accounting. Everyone has a different workflow. Zoom goal is to meet all those workflows from one client. And that's what we're going to kind of go through today is, what does it look like from a user's perspective? This is not an IT admin webinar. This is not nerd level webinar 101. This is users, what they see, what they feel, and what they experience with Zoom and Microsoft together. Well, What we also see in the Microsoft world is that a lot of companies have an E3 or even an E5 license. And what they see is they don't see the true value of everything that that application or that licensing has. We want to be able to integrate our Zoom perspective inside of that Microsoft ecosystem. And a lot of the ways that we see enterprises that don't utilize things like Microsoft Teams Phone or Microsoft Whiteboard or even Viva Engage, we want to be able to utilize those things from a Zoom perspective, a more powerful solution at probably a more cost-effective level. Things that we don't see to replace that we want to see as a partner to integrate into are things that, again, that Microsoft does that Zoom doesn't do. So certainly we can, if they're utilizing Teams from an enterprise perspective, we want to be able to integrate Zoom inside of Teams seamlessly. If you already have Outlook and Exchange as your email solution, how can we integrate Zoom inside of that without replacing anything? Just a more seamless user experience. How can we utilize Office 365 and all those productivity tools like Word and Excel and OneNote? How can we utilize those inside the Zoom client and integrate those seamlessly? SharePoint and OneDrive. If you're a Microsoft solution, you have two file repository solutions, OneDrive for your individual files and SharePoint for your company or project files. How can we bring those into the Zoom platform as well? We're going to kind of walk through a few of those examples of what it looks like from a user perspective. So the first one, productivity. How do we utilize productivity, traditional productivity solutions like the Office 365 suite of products? Everyone knows Microsoft from an Office perspective. We've been using these tools for 4,000 years. That might be a slight exaggeration, but you've been using them for a long time. Unless you grew up using Google, you've probably used Microsoft, especially at an enterprise solution. How do we bring those solutions inside of Zoom? Well, we do that a few different ways. One, mainly we can do that from a chat perspective, right? We chat with one-on-one with our colleagues, we chat one-on-one with external vendors and partners and customers. We chat inside of channels with our coworkers inside of multiple teams. We probably part of hundreds of different channels throughout the day. How do we share files seamlessly inside of Zoom Team Chat? How do we collaborate in meetings inside of Zoom meetings with Office 365 files? We're kind of going to go through a few of those today. So let's go to our first live demo. Let's see what happens. This is my demo account right now. This is my Zoom client. And inside of my Zoom client, we certainly have our chat solution. And inside of chat, we obviously have individual direct messages with individual users. We have part of channels that we have inside of our demo account. This is my demo account. I actually have a channel called Office 365 integration. And what this means is this, is by default, when you deploy Zoom at an enterprise level and you share files with individuals or with channels, you store those in the Zoom cloud. But the problem being is that sometimes users or enterprises that want to utilize SharePoint and OneDrive don't want two places where files are at. That's an administration overhead. What if we can make every single Zoom file that's shared in Team Chat also be inside of SharePoint or OneDrive? We elevated this experience because what we can do is we can now leverage the storage capability of OneDrive and SharePoint inside of Team Chat. What does that mean? It means this basically. When I create files inside of Zoom, whether they're Office 365 files or I share files inside of Zoom, we're actually going to store those inside of SharePoint and OneDrive. That way, we have one place for every single file, whether individual files or company files. That way, IT admins can effectively replace policies using Microsoft Purview, for example, DLP policies, maybe e-discovery policies or information barrier policies. All of those high-level functions that are in Microsoft Purview, probably what our customers have bought their E5 licenses for. How do we honor all those policies inside of Zoom? We can do that. We can do that because this example, I've literally put my Office 365 channel. All channels in my environment are now actually stored in SharePoint. And so what this means is when you're a user and you're chatting with your individual channels, you're going to see a little bit of a OneDrive icon at the very bottom. There's a OneDrive and SharePoint icon that's going to appear at the bottom of my Zoom client. Now, what this allows me to do is create and share Office 365 files directly from Zoom. So I clicked on that and look at that. All of those Office 365 files that I have, documents like Word documents, presentation documents like PowerPoint, Excel documents like workbooks from Excel. I can effectively now create these files directly from Zoom. So, for example, we're going to create a brand new PowerPoint presentation and we're going to say a test deck. And we're going to create that deck right from the Zoom client. So now it's created this presentation directly from the Zoom client, this Microsoft PowerPoint presentation directly from the Zoom client. And let's just do a quick design here. We're just going to insert a quick picture here. We're just going to do a stock image so no one sues me for copyright infringements. And look at that. There's some kitty cats right here. We're just going to insert those. And that looks like a great idea. So we'll just design something and boom, done. I can design a whole bunch of slides here in this Microsoft PowerPoint presentation. And I've done that launching this directly from Zoom. So let's go back to Zoom. And let's just pretend I'm done with that deck. And now I want to share that with everybody in my channel. And by default, what it's going to do is say, hey, who has access to this new PowerPoint slide? Is it everyone in the channel now gets editing access to this deck? And that sounds good. Let's just go ahead and hit done. And what this is going to do is Zoom is going to go to my OneDrive file repository and apply all channel permissions. All the members inside this channel are now going to get editing access to that deck, even though that's a OneDrive. In the past, I would have had to go into OneDrive and apply all those permissions manually, but I don't have to do that anymore. I can literally just apply those right from Zoom. And now this presentation is ready to share with this entire channel. So you can see it right here. So let's share that with the channel. I've just sent that kitty cat deck that we just did inside the Zoom channel called Office 365. Now, what that means is every member, as you remember from the last slide, every member has editing access on that file. And we can check that. Let's just go to my deck. And if you look right up here, it says this deck is actually in SharePoint right here, my personal SharePoint, which by the way, is your OneDrive. So let's go ahead and check the managing access to this deck. And you can see all the people that are part of my channel inside of Zoom now have access to this deck. I can see all the members that have access to this deck in groups that have access to this deck. I didn't do anything, right? I literally just said, hey, Zoom, go out and apply all these members. And you can imagine, this is just 3 in this channel, but you can imagine having hundreds of members that are part of a channel. You don't have to do anything. Zoom can do all that for you. So that's one way we can now apply access to OneDrive and SharePoint. We can also share files. So you can see that this file is inside of SharePoint because this is inside of OneDrive. I just created this in OneDrive. We can do the same things with files inside of OneDrive and SharePoint. So from this example, I can create new OneNotes. I can do all this stuff. I can share files right from my computer. Let's just share a file right from my computer. I have this PDF. I just want to share this with everyone in my organization inside that channel. It's a 9 meg file. Let's go ahead and send that up to SharePoint. All files are now part of this channel. So we can now share this file inside of this channel. What this now does, hey, when I upload this file, it actually put that in SharePoint. So those are some examples of how we can utilize the power of Office 365 integration from a chat perspective. What we can also do is now go to that next level. What about the next level of integration from productivity to Outlook? Remember, we talked about email integration. We talked about calendar integration. What if we could bring in the power of Exchange email, Exchange calendar inside of the Zoom client? So no longer do I have to leave the Zoom client to go respond to email or read email or forward email. I don't longer have to go to Outlook to read my calendar. We can actually synchronize all those services inside of the Zoom client. That way, again, we can create that application affinity and decrease that context switching. We can do that with our Outlook integration inside the Zoom client. Microsoft actually created this program called the Microsoft Collaboration Partner Program. It's the MCDP, sorry. It's this ability to say, hey, basically Microsoft has said, hey, we want our third-party vendors to be able to utilize the power of Office 365 into their applications. Now, with Microsoft certification and our applications inside of our marketplace, as well as inside of Microsoft's marketplace, we now have these Zoom certified apps that work inside of Microsoft as well as Office 365. Let's go back to our Zoom client. We're going to showcase, we were just in the chat. We're now going to go to mail. And right now it says, hey, I have 82 messages inside of email. And what that means is if you look at the top left-hand corner, you're going to see a Microsoft icon. What this means is I've brought in the power of Microsoft Exchange email into my Zoom client. So now all of these emails are actually housed on Microsoft Exchange. You're an enterprise solution, right? You're an enterprise customer using your E3 and E5 license for your email. We can now use these inside of the Zoom client. And you can see right here, I have 82 messages. I probably should check those a little bit more. There's a Zoom developer summit that's 1 week away. I can literally read that email inside of Zoom, and I can actually reply to that email. Should I want to reply to that email, I can just hit reply just like you would in Outlook. What's the more powerful though is AI Companion is part of your Zoom workplace license. We literally include AI Companion at no extra cost inside of your Zoom client. And we can use the power of AI Companion even with Microsoft products. So let's, for it in this fictitious example, let's reply to this email. And I could type a 10-minute reply. If you'd like to watch that demo, that's great. I'm not going to bore you with that. What if I want to have AI Companion create that reply? Down on the bottom, you can see the symbol for AI Companion. And we're going to have AI Companion go out and read that email and then compose a reply to that email using the power of AI Companion, even though that email is on Microsoft Exchange. So now look at this. Dear Zoom team, I'm going to AI Companion compose this email right here. I didn't have to type this. I literally have the power to do this inside of AI Companion. And I can refine this. I want to improve the writing of that email. I want to make it shorter. I want to make it longer. I can actually change the tone of that email. Should I want to make it more friendly? I can do that inside of AI Companion. And I can have it more friendly. So I can have it say, hey, you know what? That was a great email reply. I just want to have it more friendly. I can do that inside of AI Companion, even though that's utilizing Microsoft Exchange as a backend. I say, you know what? I like that one. Let's pretend we read that one, and I can send it. I now have used AI Companion inside of my Outlook client inside of Zoom. That's one example. What about Calendar? We talked about calendar integration. We now have a calendar tab, obviously, on the top. All of the meetings that I have for the day are listed in my calendar. You have an Outlook calendar. You might have a Microsoft Teams calendar. You certainly have a Zoom calendar. Guess what? They're all the same calendar. We're utilizing the power of Zoom integration with Outlook to view our Microsoft Teams and our Outlook calendar right from Zoom. You can see on the top left-hand side, again, there's a Microsoft icon here, meaning, yes, I brought in the power of Microsoft integration with Outlook calendaring inside of my Zoom client. And you can see that I have multiple meetings here today, right? I actually had a Teams meeting at 11 o'clock. Here's the cool thing. I have this webinar here at 12 o'clock. I have another Office 365 integration. The point is I can see all my meetings, whether they're Microsoft Teams meetings or Zoom meetings, or maybe not even a meeting at all. Maybe it's a lunch or a doctor's appointment I had booked. I can have that full integration inside of my Zoom calendar utilizing the power of Exchange. Here's one cooler thing too, is I don't care what kind of meeting it is. I want to be able to seamlessly join any meeting from my Zoom client. Obviously, I can join a Zoom meeting right from Zoom. It's not rocket science. I just hit the join button. But what about my Teams meeting at 2 o'clock? What if I could seamlessly join Microsoft Teams meetings directly from Zoom? You can. I just clicked on it. I just showed you all the people that are waiting, that are invitees to this meeting. I can now go up here and start that Microsoft Teams meeting directly from Zoom. That's pretty cool. Again, allowing you to lessen that context switching, application affinity. I don't have to leave Zoom to join a Teams meeting. I can join that Teams meeting right from Zoom. Here's another thing. We can now pull in the power of Zoom AI Companion to prepare for this Microsoft Teams meeting. We can say, hey, AI Companion, prepare for this meeting. It's going to go into my email. It's going to go to past meeting notes. It's going to go to past meeting summaries. It's going to go to past files that are shared inside of that Teams meeting. And I can actually prepare for this Teams meeting using the power of AI Companion. So you can see right here, we're going to discuss the Zoom features with Microsoft Teams. We're going to talk about bidirectional presence. We're going to talk about the Zoom app for Teams. All the stuff that we had to do, this is a reoccurring meeting. We're going to talk about all the tasks that were assigned in those last Teams meetings. We're going to do that because we have the emails, the meeting summaries, the files, all within the power of Zoom with that Microsoft coexistence strategy with Microsoft. So those are productivity. That is email. There's one more left. It's 12:30. I have 15 minutes for the next one. Let's see if I can get through it. Microsoft Teams is certainly a communication and collaboration and AI solution inside of the Microsoft ecosystem. But how do we bring in the power of Zoom inside of Microsoft Teams? So let's show you different ways that we can do that. One is bidirectional presence. What does that mean? It means green, yellow, red, right? We've known these for years, right? Those jelly beans or those toasts that shows you, hey, Patrick is busy, Patrick is free, Patrick is away or out of office. We can now bring that presence inside of Zoom and Microsoft. There's two kinds of presence integration. One is calendar presence integration. So if you saw my calendar that we have associated with Microsoft Outlook, it showed me that I had an 11 to 12 o'clock Microsoft Teams meeting. So at 11 o'clock, guess what? I went in a meeting. I went red. It doesn't really mean I'm in a meeting. It just means that I have a meeting on my calendar. I could choose to join the meeting or I could choose not to join the meeting, but I'm blocked from 11 to 12 in my example, right? I have lunch from 12 to 1. It's going to show Patrick's at lunch. He might be away. That's one level of integration we have with Zoom and Microsoft. The next level is what we call dynamic presence integration, things that are not on your calendar. Right. So say I have no meetings on my calendar throughout the whole day, but then I start an ad hoc meeting with Ashana, one of my coworkers. As soon as I go into an ad hoc Zoom meeting or an ad hoc Microsoft Teams meeting, I'm going to go red, right? I'm busy. We can now push that presence into Zoom and Microsoft Teams at the same time. What about picking up my Zoom phone call, right? I'm green, I'm available. As soon as I pick up my Zoom phone, I'm on a call. I'm red. I can now push that presence integration into Microsoft Teams and vice versa. Say you were in Microsoft Teams and you started this internal Microsoft Teams meeting, you go red. In a meeting, all Zoom users will now be able to see that you're in a meeting. So both calendar presence and dynamic presence work both ways inside of Microsoft and Zoom. Direct routing is another solution that we utilize for PSTN calling. Should you want to stay inside of Microsoft Teams and use the native PSTN dialer, you still have to connect that dialer, that PSTN, that dial pad to a dial tone. Where does that dial tone come from? It usually comes from an external vendor. You can get it from Microsoft if you want to pay Microsoft calling plans. It's a lot more expensive than getting it from a third-party vendor like an AT&T or even a Zoom. Zoom Phone can actually be your PSTN dial tone provider using direct routing as a service. So what that means is users can stay in Teams, utilize their native phone dialer, and utilize Zoom as the back end for all PSTN calling. That's one way. It certainly does work. We certainly have customers that are using that. Maybe a better way is the Zoom app inside of Microsoft Teams. This is a certified Microsoft app that's available from the Microsoft Teams marketplace inside of your Teams client. You can literally go to your Teams app marketplace, look up Zoom, and you're going to see this Zoom app. And what that does is it gives you the ability to utilize Zoom meetings and Zoom phone seamlessly inside of Microsoft Teams. I might demo this after this slide, I promise. We'll give it a shot. AI Companion. We talked about AI Companion inside the power of Microsoft Teams meetings. We talked about the power of AI Companion inside of Outlook email. We now have the AI Companion inside of Microsoft Teams client. Using your, obviously, the license that you already own in that Zoom Workplace model, you already have AI Companion as part of your license. How can we utilize the power of AI Companion inside of Microsoft Teams? We're going to demo that next too. Whiteboard, right? Zoom certainly has a whiteboard solution. It's very extravagant, it's very verbose, and we can utilize the power of AI Companion inside of Whiteboard. What if we can escalate that? What if we can share whiteboards with Microsoft Teams users? What if we can collaborate on brainstorm on Microsoft inside of Microsoft Teams with Zoom whiteboards? I'll show you that demo as well. If you're a Microsoft customer and you're utilizing Microsoft Dynamics 365 as your CRM solution, guess what? We can bring in Zoom phone integration seamlessly into Dynamics 365. If you use Dynamics as your support escalation, we can actually bring in Zoom Contact Center inside of Dynamics. And more importantly, at Enterprise Connect, I believe that was in March, we announced that Zoom Contact Center fully integrates inside of Zoom, as well as obviously inside of Microsoft Teams. So now we can literally distribute calls with Microsoft Teams users and Zoom users using Zoom Contact Center as a certified contact provider. Therefore, allows you to have the power of maybe Microsoft Teams from a chat perspective, maybe internal meetings, but then leverage the power of Zoom for external meetings, even internal meetings, the Zoom phone and contact center, all of those things happening on one solution with one client and one administrative portal. So let's see what it looks like inside of Microsoft Teams. Here's my Teams client. Here's my Microsoft Teams client. I literally have chats and channels inside of Microsoft Teams. This, if you're using Microsoft Teams, you know exactly what this looks like. But on the left side, on the left navigation bar, you're going to see a Zoom client. And what this allows me to do is bring the power of Zoom client inside of Microsoft Teams. It looks exactly like my Zoom client because this is my Zoom client inside of Microsoft Teams. This is part of that Zoom certified app that I talked about a little bit earlier in that last deck. We can now, of course, we can have new meetings. We can just hit the new meetings button. We can invite people all from our Microsoft Entra ID organization, all the users that are in Entra ID inside of my Active Directory solution inside of Microsoft. I can see and invite right from my Zoom client. We have full authentication and identity and integration with Entra ID right from a single sign-on perspective, an identity perspective with Zoom and Microsoft together. If I want to join a meeting, I can join an existing meeting. All I have to know is the meeting ID, and I can join an existing Zoom meeting. If I want to share my screen in an existing Zoom meeting, I can just type in the meeting ID. I can seamlessly share my screen or join a Zoom meeting directly from Microsoft Teams. I think the biggest one here that we use the most is obviously scheduling a meeting, right? We want to schedule a brand new Zoom meeting right from Microsoft Teams. So it's what? 12:36 Eastern time, 12:36. We're just going to pretend that's, we're going to name that 12:36. We're just going to invite a whole bunch of people here to this meeting. You know what it is like to invite somebody. We're just going to invite somebody to the meeting. We can obviously pick the time. It's 1 to 2 o'clock. We can actually invite Teams rooms. We can invite Microsoft Teams rooms to this Zoom meeting. We can obviously invite Zoom rooms to this Zoom meeting. We can invite any room to this Zoom meeting, agnostic of what meeting platform you choose. Here's a Microsoft Teams room right here. Obviously, there's multiple Zoom rooms right here. It doesn't really matter. We can invite all those meetings. And then we can have the ability to add all those things from a Zoom meeting. Passcodes, waiting rooms. There's a lot more options here. We can have participants mute on entry. We can have recordings. We can have all this set up and saved inside of Microsoft Teams using the power of Zoom. So now let's go to my calendar. On the right side, we talked about that 11 to 12 meeting. Remember on that last demo, we had that as a Microsoft Teams meeting. Inside of Zoom, I can see this is a Microsoft Teams meeting, not because it says Teams meeting, because there's a Teams icon right here. What about this 12:36 meeting I just made? It's a Zoom meeting. It literally has the Zoom icon right here. This is automatically inside the Zoom client. Let's go to the calendar of Microsoft Teams. You can see right here, it's the exact calendar that we had in Zoom. It's the exact calendar in the Zoom app. It's the exact calendar in Teams. It's the exact calendar inside of Outlook. We've seamlessly integrated this calendar with all three of the platforms. You can see this 12:36 Zoom meeting that I just created is on my Microsoft Teams calendar. Remember how we can join a Teams meeting directly from Zoom? What about joining a Zoom meeting directly from Teams? We can just click on it. So you can see right here, there's a Office 365 Zoom meeting. Guess what? I could join this Zoom meeting directly from Microsoft Teams. I just hit the join button, just like I would from a Teams meeting. So let's go back to the Zoom client. Now we've talked about all the meetings perspective. We talked about our calendar integration with all of our calendar integrations with Microsoft Teams. Let's go to phone. So inside of phone, this is Zoom Phone. This is Zoom Phone natively inside of Microsoft Teams. We can now see call history. We can see I called Patrick earlier yesterday. I can see I have a missed call right here because it's red. I can see I have an outbound call. Look at that. There's an outbound call. I can see when the call happened, how long the call was. An important thing is, do you notice this little symbol right here? Remember, this is the AI companion symbol, the kind of the diamonds, the universal sign of AI right nowadays. What if I can now bring in the power of AI companion inside of Zoom Phone, inside of Microsoft Teams? So we can actually have AI companion join our Zoom phone calls inside of Microsoft Teams. And what that allows me to do is this, is that I might have to make hundreds of phone calls during the day. And I don't remember exactly what that phone call was about. Maybe I didn't even take notes of what that phone call was about. What if I want to have AI Companion take notes for me? Look at this. I'm going to click on AI Companion. Right here, it shows me there's a quick recap. So this quick recap tells me exactly what happened during that phone call. I can just say, hey, Patrick Kelly discussed some AI Companion stuff with whoever he called. I even have next steps right here. It says Patrick Kelly's executive assistant is going to book a family vacation to Maui. Guess what? I don't have an executive assistant, nor am I going to Maui, but that's a next step. That's an example of what AI Companion can do inside of a Zoom phone call. We can take that even further. We can actually go to recorded phone calls. So Zoom natively has compliance recording inside of Zoom Phone. You can set up policies to say, hey, everyone has to record their phone calls that are maybe for regulatory reasons or compliance reasons, like help desk training. You can record all those phone calls. Now, I have the ability as a user to go play that phone call. I literally can record, I recorded that entire phone call. I can go back and listen to this entire phone call if I want to. But what if I don't want to listen to a 15-minute recording? I just want AI Companion to summarize that call recording for me. I literally can do that. AI Companion can go into that recorded phone call, recap this entire phone call right here. I can now have next steps that were happening during that phone call. If I didn't want to listen to the recording, I just wanted to read the summary, can do that. If I wanted to read the entire call transcript, I can do that. We're giving users choice of how they want to interact with the system. We can do the same thing with voicemails. So if I have a voicemail, then let's say I can obviously listen to that Zoom voicemail inside of Microsoft Teams. I can do that. But what if I just want to have AI Companion to say, hey, I want to pull out all tasks associated with that voicemail. Again, I could have listened to that voicemail and listened and taken notes on what tasks to do. But what if AI Companion to say, hey, here's all the tasks that you need to do inside that voicemail. And I want a complete summary of that voicemail. AI Companion can now do that with voicemail task. Lines. What if we're part of maybe special lines, like I'm part of a legal line, a shared line appearance, or maybe I'm a call delegate. We can see all that inside of Zoom Phone, obviously, but I want to bring that power of that inside of Microsoft Teams. So I can literally say, I'm part of the legal team. I'm part of a help desk team. I'm part of a receptionist team, right? So I'm part of a team of receptionists that says, hey, a phone call comes in and we can be part of maybe a 10 group receptionist team, and we can all answer that phone call and delegate that phone call on our behalf. We can do that inside of Microsoft Teams using Zoom Phone shared line delegation. We can also do that from a user perspective. Say I'm a user, say I'm an executive admin for Stephanie Kelly, and I can actually make calls and receive calls on behalf of Stephanie Kelly. We can do that too. We can actually set up call delegation and it transfers to Zoom. And here's an example. If I wanted to make a phone call on behalf of Stephanie Kelly, I can just drop this menu down, and now you're going to see Stephanie Kelly as part of one of my outbound phone calls. So now if I were to make an outbound call, it would actually make that outbound call on behalf of Stephanie or Megan Trainor or whoever I'm a call delegate for. We can do that because we can change the caller ID inside of Microsoft Teams. We can also bring in SMS inside of Microsoft Teams. Zoom SMS can now be natively done inside of Microsoft Teams. So you can see that I've literally sent the demo inside of Teams. I can do a demo SMS. I can send pictures. I can send files just like you can in SMS. I can use that from a business perspective. So now I can do all my business SMS inside of Microsoft Teams. I can do it on my mobile device, or I can do it inside of my Zoom device. Okay, that's pretty much it. Oh, there's one more thing. Check this out. I now have speed dials inside of Microsoft Teams. I now can make and receive calls to my speed dials, people that I call most often inside of Microsoft Teams. And I don't have to care if they're Zoom users or Microsoft Teams users. You can see that Britt here is a Microsoft Teams user. I can call him, I can SMS him, I can call Patrick, who is a Zoom user, all from my speed dials inside of Microsoft Teams, regardless if it's a Microsoft Teams contact or a Zoom contact. We're going to bring them all in inside of Microsoft Teams. Oh, here's a cool thing. Look, you can see that Presence is working inside of it says I'm in a calendar event. I now, because I'm in Zoom in a calendar event, you can see that my Microsoft Teams client can see that I'm in a calendar event. Okay, I think I have time for maybe one more demo. Let's give it a shot. We'll give one more shot. Chat. Here's an example of chat. Say I'm chatting with Jeff here, one of my colleagues. I'm chatting back and forth, chat back and forth, just like you would inside of Microsoft Teams. And I'll say, hey, you know what? I want to escalate this to a more user-friendly experience. So I want to say, hey, I want to escalate this to a Zoom meeting, for example. I can really click on my message extensions and pull in the ability to start an instant meeting with Jeff right from Microsoft Teams chat. I can like schedule a meeting right from Microsoft Teams chat. I can make a phone call right from Microsoft Teams chat. I can even share a whiteboard from Team Chat. So I can like say, hey, here's all of my Zoom whiteboards. These are Zoom whiteboards. You can see right up here. I want to share a bullseye. I want to share this bullseye whiteboard with Jeff inside of Microsoft Teams. Now you can see right here, I now have the ability from Microsoft Teams to open up a Zoom whiteboard. And that way we can co-edit and co-author on Zoom whiteboards from Microsoft Teams.
So if you haven't guessed by now, this is actually a webinar I produced for a bunch of our customers, and I recorded it because I wanted to reuse it on social media. I hope you found it helpful to see what the demos look like from a real perspective of a knowledge worker and information worker. And if you like videos like this, please follow me on LinkedIn or subscribe to my YouTube channel. Always remember, stay curious, stay focused, and most importantly, stay nerdy. I'm Patrick Kelly, the Tattooed Nerd.